Hey Newlife Youth, just wanting to launch our new how-to series on YouTube. This is a series where we look at how to do different things in the day-to-day. We want to dig deeper. We want this to be a resource where you can turn back to this throughout the week and look back and actually ask the question, hey, how do I actually live as a follower of Jesus? What does it mean for me to be a disciple of Christ? And how do I live that out in the everyday? So if you have any ideas on how-tos, you want to know how to choose music as a Christian, how to ask out a girl or a boy, how to rest well, how to read the Bible, whatever you want to know, whatever we can use to help you grow in your discipleship journey, we want to hear from you. So feel free to comment and let us know what you'd like to hear. Now, I don't know if you are anything like me, but I find I still get tongue-tied when it comes to the whole Jesus conversation. The conversation will be going a certain way, and then, it's almost like that moment where you have the opportunity to talk about Jesus or you don't. And I find there's this tension in me often in that moment. I'm kind of like, I do want to talk about it, but I'm petrified. I don't know how to. And there's three things that I think that we can do to help us actually have those conversations with people and learn to talk about Jesus in a much more comfortable and controlled way. And it's 3 F's. And the first one is familiarity. How familiar are you with God? See, if we're familiar with something, if we're comfortable with something, if our identity is rooted in Christ and our identity is strong in Jesus, then there's going to be this familiarity that we have between us and God. And therefore, when someone actually comes to ask us the question, it's not like we're not talking about something that we don't know. We're actually kind of like, hey, this is Jesus, he died on the cross for you. And you can begin to talk about that. You can talk about grace. If you're familiar with grace, you can talk about grace. If you're familiar with the stories, if you're familiar with God's character, then you're going to know that He's not going to stitch you up. God actually wants to see you thrive and shine. So how familiar are you with God? And how familiar are you with your relationship with God? How familiar are you with this? Is there certain passages in here that you can refer to, stories that you love that, are helping form your faith and make it a bit easier for you to talk about your faith too? Jaquel Crowe says this quote, "If we believe the gospel, we can put it into words. And if we can put the gospel into words, we can share those words with someone else." I love the way that she just simplifies that and she says, hey, this is all it is. If you know it, you're going to love it. And if you love it, you're going to share it. The second F is fear. And this one's quite hard and it's quite common. And honestly, it's normal. But that doesn't mean it should be an excuse for us. I think that we let fear control us. We have those moments in the conversation where someone's kind of like, it might be as small as, hey, what did you get up to on the weekend? And you're kind of like, oh, let's talk about everything except for Friday night or Sunday morning. Let's divert the conversation. Hey, how about the weather? If we actually didn't fear those conversations, if we actually didn't live in fear, we could actually begin to say, no, well, I actually went to youth on Friday night. I went to church on Sunday. I hung out with a bunch of Christian mates. Erwin McManus has this quote, and I want to read this out to you. But I am convinced of this, Erwin says, you must not allow fear to steal your future, and every day that you walk this earth, you must make sure that you save nothing for the next life. Imagine if we walked out and when every opportunity that we had in school, at work, at home, we actually said, hey, I want to save nothing for the next life. I want to go full hand for this and I want to be sold out for the gospel. You must never allow fear to keep you grounded, Erwin says. The moment you choose to play it safe, you've lost the game. What would it look like for you to actually not play it safe in those conversations? When someone says, what did you do on the weekend? Or, hey, why do you sing those songs? Or why do you do this? Why do you do that? Why do you believe in something that's not real? For you to actually not live in fear and go, hey, this is real to me. This is life. This is what Jesus has done in my heart. This is what a relationship with a Father does. And then lastly, I think it's form. It all comes down to our form. Now, what do I mean when I say that? I mean that the more that we do this, the more informed we get. You can't just run out and go run a marathon straight off the bat. And if you can, good for you. Let us know how you did that. But for most of us, it actually takes time to build the form. And it's the same when we're talking about evangelism. We need to be informed. The more familiar that we are with our scriptures, the less that we live in fear, and the more informed we become, the more we're just going to say, hey, this is just a normal conversation. So what once did grapple you by fear is now something that's kind of like, hey, this is normal. This is form to me. I'm actually in the flow. I'm in the routine. Doesn't mean you give cookie cutter answers, but you actually become more and more informed with what you're talking about and more comfortable. And as that happens, it just sort of flows and it gets a little easier. I will tell you this though, it never gets perfectly easy. It always can be a little bit uncomfortable at times. But I can tell you, I've regretted the times when I haven't spoken about Jesus. The times that I have, it's been uncomfortable, it's been a little bit awkward sometimes, but I've always regretted the times where I've sat down and kept quiet. Our hope and our prayer is that through familiarity, through not living in fear, and through form, that you can go out and have those conversations with your non-Christian friends and just begin to make that a little bit normal. So don't live in fear. Find that form, get familiar with the scriptures, get familiar with the story of the gospel, get familiar with that, and then go out and let's save a generation. See ya.